What would you do for an Omicron? Did you stab someone? Maybe you'd just suck a lollipop is what I was going to say. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Zareth Prevails. Today we're going to do another tier list Thursday, which is just such bad alliteration. It really just does exhibit a reprehensible lack of creativity on my part. That's terrible, but it's also fun to cringe alongside you guys. So there we go. I should have counted down for you, but I had to get mine out of the way. So I don't have a new one, guys. Yeah, soonish. I'm going to be working on a new Omicron infographic, but if you guys want to go see the infographic, it is in my video description, linked in the Discord server, and it's just in the channel called Infographics. And when I make a new one with with all the stuff with the new characters like Luthen and Night Trooper were the last two that I knew about that I hadn't ranked yet. Once I do that, you guys can go find them. So go check out my Discord server. It's free, guys. It's all free. Huge shout out to my patrons. You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for your support. I couldn't do this without you. I really just so appreciate you. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. And if you want to support this channel for free, folks, all you gotta do is hit that thumbs up button. Like, subscribe, comment. Let's mount it to the algorithm, shall we? It's a good day for a solid mounting. Now, I do have just something to say real quick here, folks, about if we're talking about early game, like brand new players. First off, don't just go and spend a bunch of your Omicron materials on random characters. You're like, well, I use them all the time. We should do that. Like, you feel like you have a ton of them, and the reality is you don't. Eventually, you're gonna get to this point where characters need like 3 of them, and in fact, they would love to have 3 of them, and you're not gonna have enough anyways, and you're gonna regret that you put one on Chirpa because your Ewok team sucks, even with relics. I'm sorry, Ewok lovers, I forgot to say earmuffs, but you're probably, people who are intentionally playing Ewoks are probably too defiant to listen and obey for me saying earmuffs anyways, so no regrets there. Anyways, what I want to say though, the other piece of it is, I realize that there are going to be guild dynamics, there are going to be things that are, they're going to change your own perspective and your own way of approaching Omicrons, and I just want to make sure people understand, as far as value goes, I don't think there are that many valuable PvE data or Omicrons. There are no valuable datacrons that are PvE because they don't exist. But PvE ones, I know some guilds are like, dude, you gotta put one on whatever character. Like Cal, for instance, he's one that people say it's required, and it's not required. You can win every single time without doing that. You can win the mission. So, go watch my guides for those missions, of course, obviously. But then Territory Wars, also, the very early game, you have extremely diminishing returns on adding Omicrons, because most new players aren't going to get into a guild that's very good at what they're doing, and sometimes, I know that there are exceptions to everything, right? But in general, I would say the first Omicrons you want to apply to your roster are going to be Grand Arena, and I know that Grand Arena is my favorite mode, so maybe I'm just being biased, but I do think that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, and eventually, yes, you'll want to start allocating more to Territory Wars, and probably not to PvE, but you do you, man. So, just wanted to mention that. Now, let's talk about this, because all the people on my list are going to be Omicrons for Grand Arena. Let's get into the game, and I'll talk about it a little bit, shall we? I'll talk about it, shall we? It's good English, folks. We're on a roll today. Alliteration and just pluralizing things, using the plural. Guys, I have to admit, my kids who are 10 and 6, they like in their free time they're going to a good like charter school and they're talking about like diagramming sentences, and I'm like, wow, I had no idea that many things went into one sentence. It's very impressive. So let's talk about how many things go into being successful in this game, because that is something I tend to know a little bit about. And the first one is one that I've said for a long time, guys. As far as like early game things that you want to be working on, like Night Sisters are one of those squads that are just like, it makes so much sense to be working on them early, because you don't need them relicked like for a long time. For years you don't need them relicked, and they're going to be your biggest champion in a ton of game modes. Yeah, like you're going to be able to get through an assault battle with them, and you're going to be able to get through Conquest. Like Conquest is where they really shine. They're so amazing. And then in GAC they kill at least one Galactic Legend so far. Well, I mean, usually they don't, but they could kill Jabba. I do it in 3v3 all the time, even still with my main account at 13 point whatever million GP. But even if you're not killing Jabba, there are tons and tons and tons of early game matches that you're going to be able to destroy people with your Night Sisters. And having the Omicron on Marin is just it's a nice boost. You don't have to put relics on the team. You do want a couple Zetas, but for the most part, like she doesn't even need fast mods. In fact, she has a mechanic that says she completely ignores her speed. She doesn't care. You could have 1,000 speed on these mods, and whereas I would be impressed, she isn't. She doesn't care. She just wants to use her mechanics. And so for an early game character, just throwing an Omicron on her, you don't need to put one on a Saige, and I know that the new Night Sisters team, maybe eventually that'll be something I advise, but for right now, just the standard Night Sisters team, the old school one that I have a ton of videos of talking about, but Talzin and Daka, Zombie, Marin, and Saige, that's probably who you're going to be targeting first. And the Omicron is great just because it gives this really cool loop where whenever someone dies, so the whole team works on based on your guys dying and then reviving. Like that's the whole mechanics of it. Like start and finish, that's what you want. You want your guys to die and then you revive them, and hopefully your opponent doesn't have something that prevents revives. And so that's the nuance, and you have to choose wisely on what things you're going to be sending them into. But the thing is, when your guys inevitably die, which you kind of want them to die a lot, then she gains 100% turn meter with that Omicron, and that's really strong, that kind of mechanic, and it can't be prevented. People can't just daze you. They can't do it. I guess they could stun you, but you gain 100% turn meter, and then you can move on. It's pretty cool, guys. She's been one of my favorite characters since she was released in the game. She really propped up a faction that really totally sucked, and now I know that the other Night Sisters are kind of getting love, but that OG Night Sisters team, the level of crutch that she has bestowed upon them is immense, and it feels good to be able to see that in early game. They're just going to keep delivering, like, for years for you. Eventually, you'll be like, wow, I didn't use Night Sisters, but you thought it's okay, because you've developed other teams. Amazing team, and an amazing Omicron for them. Now, Saige is an interesting one. This is one, I always say he's luxury, but the reality is, well, I mean, okay, his Omicron is probably one of the best and strongest in the game. It really is. Just taken by itself, just like the impact it has in its own game mode, which Omicrons are specifically targeting one individual game mode. His is just so crazy because, I mean, he's got all these weird things going on. First off, he's an attacker, but because the way his kit is created, like the way it looks, he's able to, like, they wanted him to be tanky, like, from the start, and his kit initially was like, oh yeah, he's tanky, but he doesn't taunt, he doesn't do anything interesting, like, he just kind of sits there, and if someone is stupid enough to attack him, then that's their own stupidity at work, and then you'll lose. But in this one, he not only does he like just get a huge boost, he also gets these stacks of resilient defense. And I mean, the Omicron is fairly long. In fact, you guys can go read it on your own time when you have a spare couple hours. But he is able to just taunt and taunt and taunt and taunt. And what ends up happening is, first off, he's a cheap character to work on. Like, early game, you want to preserve as much Chirotech as you can, right? Like, you've already felt the Chirotech crunch. Saige is a guy who doesn't need that many Chirotech. He needs 100 Chirotech, and that's it. Once you get him up to relics, obviously he still costs relics, but the thing is, he is incredibly resilient, and early game, he's going to be his own team. He's going to, in GAC, go in and just destroy one squad. Now, you have to be discerning on which squads you take out, but things like CLS or other teams, I don't know off the top of my head, guys. There are quite a few early game teams, though, that he's going to be able to solo on his own, and he's going to destroy them really hard. And it's kind of cool. It's awesome to see. He does some cool stuff. He functions on his own. Eventually, you'll get to the point in the game where you can't do that. Your opponents are too strong. They have too many relics. The teams are too well designed and have too many mechanics to protect against a single Saige. And in which case, you're going to throw him on the same squad as the next person I advise, which is Trya. She is, you need to give her a tray, guys, a try. So Trya is one of the most awesome Omicrons as well, and it's so strange that in out of like the few Omicrons that I suggest, like there's such a close overlap between the Omicrons. The thing is, her Omicron does a lot of really cool things. Like she already had a cool leadership, she already had a cool unique, but she kind of aged, right? I like that's just how she's an older kit, and it still is good and functional in a lot of ways. And I did put her on the top 5 list of one of the best characters in the game, even still. But the Omicron makes her, like, just for a little bit, they made it so strong that she was beating tons of Galactic Legends just right out the gate. Eventually, of course, she was able to kind of backtrack on that a little bit. They were able to backtrack on it. They nerfed it a tiny bit, which is fine. It needed to be nerfed, but the fact of the matter is, it really makes her whole team way stronger, and it just gives them a nice, kind of badly needed boost. Honestly, guys, she went from, yeah, I'll use her sometimes on offense, to like, she's legitimately very strong on offense or defense. She does a lot of really cool stuff, and the Omicron just boosts on that, folks. She does more and more stuff. They're ramping damage. They're doing all kinds of, like, they instantly make Darth Nihilus. If they do some damage to him, he's able to instantly get his Annihilate off and skip all of his long cooldown process, and so she's really strong. And that team, just the Trya with Nihilus and whatever other Sith, maybe Scion, maybe you want to work on some other Sith. This isn't a team building video necessarily, but whatever team she's going to be on, early game, that's enough to either mess with people on defense or destroy them on offense. Usually you want her on offense, to be honest, guys, because she's just so flexible and awesome. But the thing is, eventually she's going to be too weak to actually beat a ton of teams long term, and so you're going to add Saige, and the two have some really, really nice synergy together, folks. So, really nice that, yes, individually, these are great early game Omicrons, and they lead their own individual teams and have their own levels of dominance in GAC itself. That's great, and then once they stop being relevant, you just fold them into their own super team, and it continues to be relevant to this day. As far as I know, they're relevant even now. So then they are. They're really good together. Okay, so Qui-Gon is one that well, he's one of the very first Omicrons to ever be released, and they had to nerf it because it was killing all sorts of Galactic Legends. They had to say, hey, this doesn't work on Galactic Legends. And honestly, guys, if you mod your guys well, and you put them on defense, sometimes people will be dumb enough to only take one Galactic Legend, and they'll still lose to your Jedi, because the mechanics of the Jedi aren't just contained to Qui-Gon being overpowered with his Omicron. However, early game, this is such a valuable tool, guys, because first off, you're working on a lot of these characters for various reasons. You want that Galactic Republic fleet, you want Anakin to be able to take things out, like all the Galactic Republic stuff is there. Like those are the Jedi. You have to get Yoda unlocked and like use him for a ton of different reasons. Eventually you want him Relic 8 for a Kenobi unlock, something like that, or is it Jedi Master Luke? Anyways, Qui-Gon is a guy who's going to boost your team, and you're going to continue to get and work on continually relevant Galactic Republic Jedi, which is the only people he wants on his team, of course. Yes, he kind of works a little bit with other Jedi, but for the most part, you're going to want him to just be an elitist jerk face and only have Galactic Republic Jedi. Anyways, this is a team I still use, folks, even late game. Yes, it goes in and out of usability based off of datacrons. That's just how the game functions right now, and it's kind of frustrating, but it's still fine. It's cool. Like, he's still a good leader sometimes in the late game, and early game, he's going to... People don't know how to beat him. People just don't know how to beat a well-modded team. And the characters that you are going to be collecting... first off, he's cheap to work on anyways. He's easy to get a ton of shards for and get up to, 7 stars right away. And then the characters that he goes well with early game, like Anakin and Snips and... tons of other characters are going to be relevant way later down the line. They're going to be pilots, a lot of them, like Plo Koon could be added to this. Lots of relevance, both today. I mean, I lost to this the other day. I lost to this on my main account because they just hit so stupidly hard, and you don't need crazy good mods for them. Similarly to Saige and Trya, you just don't need a ton of speed. They're kind of self-contained. In early game, you don't have a huge number of speed mods to spare, and so nice little boost. So those are the ones that are for sure. Now, tied for the final spot, I have 3 more because it just depends on what you're planning to do, and I'm not here to tell you what to do with your roster. I'm just kind of giving you advice and understanding of what you're doing. So first off, if people want to be working on Phoenix early game, which I've gone in and out of thinking that's an amazing idea. I think that Phoenix can be a really good early game squad, but they kind of lose relevance a little bit. Like mid game, they're still probably good. Once you get into Kyber, you very rarely use Phoenix except as pilots, but even their ships are only used sometimes. Captain Rex, however, of course, he is he's desirable, folks. He wants to be on a ton of different squads. He wants to be on a Leia team. He wants to be on Mon Mothma team, especially now the Luthen's here. He wants to be with Saw. He wants, Phoenix obviously is going to work for him. He can go with clones with General Skywalker. There's a ton of teams that he can fit on and do really, really super well. And so putting an Omicron on him is just going to be a good idea for the long shot anyways, but it's not going to be that good for you if you're not working on Phoenix. So early game, if you're not working on Phoenix, I would say save your Omicron, put it on maybe like Wampa. If you're working on Wampa, a lot of times that means that you're trying to unlock Jedi Knight Luke, and he's a requirement, but he also costs a bunch of GET2, GET1. It's a resource that you don't have a lot of early game, and if you're not going to be working, I guess he costs raid currency now. Anyways, he's tough to get sometimes. If you're going to get him, though, he sucks without an Omicron. He's amazing with early game. He terrorizes people. You really don't need high relics for him. He just destroys people, but you need that Omicron for it to work. And eventually it stops being as relevant. It's not as good. You can't kill a ton of people with it. But early game, dude, you'll use this forever, and you'll wonder why Zareth is such a noob as to not use him in some of his streams. Now, Starkiller is another team that I recommend people work on early game, and if you want to get Starkiller, guys, this is probably the #1 Omicron in the whole game. anyways. Like, just the level of impact you go from like, oh, he's okay, to oh my gosh, he's amazing, is just so massive. So you want to put it on his unique, the one that provides all the extra boosts, and that's what you want to do, guys. That you want to put it on his unique because it's the best thing. And if you have a Star Killer team, the thing is, Star Killer is going to continuously be relevant because as he gets more and more resources and reinforcements from new releases. So that's just my list, folks. Let me know what your thoughts are. What did I miss? What things do you think should go on this list? Sorry, my chair is so creaky. Gosh, what a stupid chair to be as so creaky as that. But I want to hear what your thoughts are, folks. What Omicrons did I miss that should be early game, new player level stuff? I'm sure there's a couple that you can debate me on. So, you know, let me know in the comments below. You guys are lucky I didn't make a video on the top 5 reasons Bane is not a top 5 character. Thought about doing that, but I ended up going the more mercenary route and deciding people weren't going to click on that as often. So, we're doing this. But everyone who thought Bane is the top 5 character is wrong. So, anyways, guys, I love you all. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, I hope you prevail. Take care, folks.